Java 3D, How to Create a Simple Cube Slide Game. Part 2, Message in the Console on Hit. This video explains how to display the message, Level Clear. Congratulations! In the console. When a projectile hits the target on the very first space key press. The previous video explains how to create a base, a target embedded in the base, and a projectile, which are all made of color cubes, and how to shoot the projectile by pressing the space key. In this video, I added several pieces of code to the source code shown in the previous video. Java 3D, How to Create a Simple Cube Slide Game Part 1, Shooting a Projectile. Values we need to find. First, we need to know the distance from the initial position of the projectile to the positions of the near and far ends of the target, more specifically the distance to here and to here. If these distances are known, we can detect if the projectile is on the target. Also, we need to know the distance from the initial position of the projectile to the position of the far end of the base. If this distance is known, we can detect when to drop the projectile from the base. To find these distances, I created source code 1 by adding cube distance to the previous source code. Each time the keyPressed method is executed and the projectile moves, cube distance is decrement by 1.0, and its value is printed to the console. Executing source code 1. Watch the console as I hold the space key. You'll see the cube distance decrease as the cube moves. Use the arrow keys to move around to the right side of the base color cubes. Find the values of cube distance when the projectile is here, here, and here. Using these values in source code 2. Overview of the keyReleased and keyPressed methods in source code 2. What is happening within the keyReleased method? Count the number of times the space key is released. If the projectile is in the range from here to here, and the space key is released only once, display the message, Level Clear. Congratulations! In the console. What is happening within the keyPressed method? If the space key is pressed once but not yet released, and the projectile hasn't fallen off the base yet, move the projectile in the negative z direction. Record the distance from the initial position of the projectile to its current position and print it to the console. Drop the projectile from the base if it goes beyond the edge of the base. Set a flag to true if the projectile falls off the base. Source code explanation. Source code links in description. Feel free to use the source code to make your own Java 3D program. I reused the source code described in the previous video. Java 3D, How to Create a Simple Cube Slide Game Part 1, Shooting a Projectile. I provided two types of source code. One is source code 1, which, as I explained earlier, is used for displaying and checking the values of cube distance. The other is source code 2, which I'm going to detail next. Actually displays the message, Level Clear. Congratulations! In the console on hit. 1. Set to true if the projectile falls off the base. Used to keep track of the distance from the initial position of the projectile to its current position. The distance to the near end of the target is stored. The distance to the far end of the target is stored. 2. Each time the space key is released, release count is increment by 1, and print release count to the console. The cube moves in the negative direction, so in the keyPressed method, the value is decreasing. The cube is on the target if cube distance is less than or equal to -81, and greater than or equal to -83. if cube distance is less than or equal to the near end of the target, and greater than or equal to the far end of the target, and also release count is 1, which means that the space key is released for the first time. Display the message, Level Clear. Congratulations, in the console. 3. If the space key is pressed for the first time but not yet released, and the projectile hasn't fallen off the base yet, move the projectile in the negative z direction. Decrement cube distance by 1.0 and print it to the console. Drop the projectile from the base if cube distance goes beyond -90. Since the projectile is rotated around the z-axis by -3.14 radians, -180 degrees, it's upside down, so it moves in this direction. Since the length of one side of the color cube is 2.0, and the cube is scaled up to 6 times, the projectile drops to the same level as the bottoms of the base color cubes. Set a flag to true if the projectile falls off the base. This flag is also important. Without this part here, if the space key is pressed for the first time but not yet released, that is, the space key is continued to be pressed for the first time, the projectile continues to move forward and fall downward. When cube distance goes beyond -90, add this part, and stop executing this block of code, so that the projectile does not move anymore after it drops. Running the program in Eclipse. When the projectile hits the target on the very first space key press, the message, Level Clear, Congratulations, is displayed in the console. Thank you for watching my video. On my homepage, New Google Sites, I divided my how-to videos into groups so that you could find what you were looking for more easily. If you are interested in it, please visit the site. Links in description. Visit my channel to see more videos.